Through its worldwide resources, EWTN presents a truly global perspective of our Catholic faith. Welcome to the Catholic Sphere. I'm Brian Patrick. Having just celebrated Divine Mercy Sunday, this beautiful Easter season continues. For the second consecutive year, the Church's greatest celebration has been muted by coronavirus restrictions across the globe. Let's meet our contributors who can shed some light on this continuing challenge for the Universal Church. We welcome back Tracey Harkin from EWTN Ireland. It's always good to have Tracey with us. We also have two first-time contributors this week. Father Elias Lades, initiator for EWTN in the Low Countries in Holland, and Alejandro Bermúdez, the executive director of EWTN's Así Prensa, joins us from Phoenix, Arizona. Father Elias, let's start with you. Tell us about the creativity of Catholics there in Holland who went to great lengths to celebrate Easter liturgies this year.
Well, I must say it was not in all places maybe, but in my own community I was very happy to see that. In depressive times and depressive places, there's always people who refuse to be depressed, and that's what our faith is all about. So it's a strong parish, I must say, and all age classes, all ages are well represented, but we had a group of young, dynamic technicians who helped the brothers, and there are 5 priests, to build up equipment in 5 places: a lecture hall, a gym, the church itself. So we could actually, the whole Eastern Vigil was in 4 or 5 different locations, and they could follow Mass in church, although for the distribution of the light, for the gospel, and of course for the distribution of communion, the priests would go to their respective places. And it was a great celebration because, I mean, it was a bit dangerous because all over the place you were at risk of falling over wires, but but actually, apart from that, it was business as usual, but even more usual than usual.
Well, we welcome new Catholics into the church at that Easter Vigil celebration. How many people came into the church there this year?
I don't know this year, because actually there is quite a regular amount of people joining the church or coming back to the church. We had that night 2 baptisms, which is not, no, it's certainly not more than usual, but usually there's 3-4 adult people being baptized, yes.
In that parish. Tracey, in Ireland, how heartbreaking it is for the church there. I understand you had no catechumens entering the church this Easter.
That's right, Brian. In Ireland, right across the country, the rite of Christian initiation, First Communion, and confirmation, all those beautiful sacraments have been put on hold because of the COVID situation. So a very different Easter Vigil this year.
So how do you think people handled this there? Was there any celebration going on, perhaps in neighborhoods, in private homes?
Well, there has been a very different situation north and south of the country, Brian. In the north of Ireland, we were delighted that our churches reopened just in time for Holy Week, and we had it was beautiful and very joyful for me and in my community that we were able to actually go into church and have our Easter ceremonies. Not quite as normal. There was no washing of the feet. There was no candles allowed. There was no Paschal fire greeting us when we arrived at the church, as would usually be the case. In the Republic of Ireland, which is most of Ireland, a very, very different story. The lockdown there has been described as, disproportionate, and actually there's cases now making their way through the Irish courts. So, for example, the recent court case involving Declan Ganley, an Irish businessman, really clarified for the church that it is actually now illegal. It's a criminal penalties now associated to either saying Mass in the south of Ireland or for people to attend Mass. So this has, of course, been challenged by certain priests. One priest, for example, in County Cavan has left himself with a very heavy penalty, and he faces up to 6 years in prison. So it's extremely serious at the moment, and we're thinking really that it's going to be the Irish courts that will decide whether or not the Irish state is actually acting illegally and going against the Irish constitution. So yes, people are being creative and having prayer services as best they can, but it in no way makes up for what's actually happening right across the country in terms of the church closures.
Indeed, Tracey, it was really shocking to see videos of governments literally shutting down Easter services in the UK, also in Canada. Alejandro, I wonder if you could speak to what we've seen happening in both London and I believe it was Calgary in Canada.
Well, what we have seen is a growing difference between what how the Catholics and bishops, because sometimes they have been working together, sometimes they have not, and well, what you see in Calgary is you have seen basically Catholics being able to fight the law, basically by power of decision. We are not going to let the government rule over us. And in some other places, if you don't mind, if I can mention Latin America, for example, you have a completely different patches of places in which either the governments have been extremely heavy-handed, and in some others in which the bishops could have been a little bit more forceful in terms of legally claiming the right to go back to mass. Because, Brian, in general, the thing is this: so many events have been allowed to happen in many occasions. Say in my country, for example, in Peru, there was a massive protest that took down a president. And in the middle of the worst of the pandemic, the protesters were hailed as heroes. But in the other hand, when Catholics wanted to practice their faith, who were not gathering irresponsibly, because honestly, everywhere that I have been, last year I have the chance to be, even in the middle of the pandemic, in Italy, in Costa Rica, in Peru. And Catholics are the ones that have been by far the most responsible in practicing social distancing, extreme hygiene, masks, everything you want. And this concept that the practice of our faith is not essential is extremely problematic. So
it is.
In Latin America, many bishops found ways to celebrate, and not in a spirit of taunting the authority, but actually to showing the authority that indeed it is essential.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because we hear a lot now that bishops can and probably should be more forceful in telling governments that, hey, we have a right to gather for worship and we cannot continue to be restricted. This is not a dispensable part of our lives. We need our faith practices. We need our liturgies. Stay with us for more on the Catholic sphere. We're going to learn more about the church at a crossroads in Ireland. We'll also explore the small but strong Catholic presence in the Low Countries of Holland with Father Elias. Stay with us on EWTN, the Global Catholic Network. Welcome back to the Catholic Sphere, EWTN's weekly global perspective of our Catholic faith. I'm Brian Patrick, joined by Tracey Harkin in Ireland, Alejandro Bermúdez from Phoenix, Arizona, Father Elias Lades in Holland. So Tracey, tell us about a planned synod to hear from those who have left the church there in Ireland.
Yes, Brian, on March the 10th of this year, the Irish bishops announced a roadmap, really, sort of consisting of different phases that the Irish Church would undergo, leading to a national synod assembly within the next 5 years. So the first 2 years, really, what the bishops are saying, they want to hear from groups and individuals and organizations within the church in terms of best practice. So first of all, the first couple of years will be deciding, how do we actually do this? What's the best methods of consultation? And very much the theme is, reaching out to the peripheries, bringing young people back to the church, and, solidarity with the poor. The Pope Francis at the World Meeting of Families in Dublin, he sort of asked the Irish Church to listen to the Holy Spirit, and he sort of called for a new Pentecost. And that indeed is what the Irish bishops are hoping will happen throughout this 5-year process, a renewal and a new Pentecost for the Church in Ireland.
Well, the Church in Ireland has been such a strength in the universal church. You are there, you're part of that church. Do you see a renewal, or are you less optimistic, Tracey?
I think there is such good news happening in Ireland, Brian. I see it among the new generation, the young people. I see lots of beautiful little seeds beginning to sprout up. I think what this pandemic has taught us is that people are yearning for spiritual support, for spiritual consolation. The online services experienced here in Ireland an absolute massive increase in the numbers of people actually that would come on and view the local masses. Even the different programs that have been offered online have had quite a significant uptake, a much greater uptake than before COVID-19 hit us. So I see that there's the yearning that's there. I think with any synod, with any consultation process, there's going to be risk involved. And I think some people are a bit concerned about specific interest groups hijacking it. But I think we need to trust the Holy Spirit. And I think we need to, I think it's quite a positive thing. And if it's done well. So much prayer will be needed for that.
Yeah, looking at that synodal path that the bishops in Germany are doing, I could see why there would be some concerns there. So, Father Elias, even with restrictions in Holland, Catholics can participate in the sacraments, you've told us that, but that wasn't always possible there in the Low Countries, the Netherlands. If you will, give us a brief historical snapshot of the church in that region.
Well, I would say when you look at the Low Countries or the original Netherlands, that's a region, let's say the delta of the Maas River and the Rhine River, the region that comprises the Netherlands, the present Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and even the north of France. And that region became very rich, wealthy because of trade, and the church was prospering at the same time. Mystics, monasteries, I mean, that's our culture. The thing is, due to the religious wars during the Reformation, which are in fact also the emancipation of the middle class in these regions, the country was split up. So you have what we call today the Netherlands, which is actually the original northern Netherlands, where the Catholic Church was illegal, and the southern Netherlands, which remained part of the Spanish kingdom, which was almost 100% Catholic. So you get two very different cultural climates from the point of view of faith. It was only about 150 years ago, I can't remember exactly the year, that the Catholic Church in the northern Netherlands became legal.
During that period when the church was illegal, you weren't allowed to participate in the sacraments or liturgies.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, with Catholics, they were at the time the same way that we are with soft drugs today. I would even say the famous Dutch tolerance was first invented for the Catholics. Don't bother them, but don't worry us, and don't come out into the street, but you can do what you feel like. And when it worked on the Catholics, they tried it out for less virtuous things.
So Alejandro, I want to go to you there in Phoenix, Arizona. In your decades of Catholic journalism, you've seen your share of religious oppression. Tell us about your work and what you think it brings to EWTN.
It's a great question, Brian. I appreciate it. I was blessed to being recently in Iraq for the visit of the Holy Father, and I could talk to the many Christians that used to be in the Nineveh plains, the ones that were completely destroyed by ISIS, and that right now live in the area that is known as the Iraqi Kurdistan in the north of the country, around the city of Erbil, which has traditionally a Christian population, and that for more than 150 years have been living in tolerance with the Muslims neighbors, and that's why many of these Christians, I mean, the vast majority of the Christians from the Nineveh plains moved there, and the stories of persecution are, I mean, take us Catholics to a completely different concept of what persecution means. And I am not downplaying the way, like in Europe or in other places, either the culture, the leaders, the laws are starting to persecute Christians, or what we see here in the United States, like what big tech is doing. But these guys bring us to the real bottom line concept of persecution for Christians, which is that you have to be ready to give your life today. And that kind of concept of persecutions really lead us to be, stronger, far more creative, far more generous, because not only they are really persecuted, but that is what they are expecting from us, their fellow Christians in other parts of the world.
And Alejandro, this should not surprise us that we're persecuted. Jesus warned us that if we follow him, that we were going to be persecuted. But he also rose from the dead, as we celebrate during this beautiful Easter season. So that's the reminder that he has won the battle, and the persecution will just lead us, hopefully, to the kingdom with him. Next on the Catholic Sphere, he dreamed of being a hermit, but the Lord had other plans for Father Elias in the Netherlands. He offers his unique insight into our sacraments of initiation. Stay with us here on EWTN. Thank you so much for joining us for the Catholic Sphere, now a weekly global perspective of our Catholic faith. I'm Brian Patrick with Alejandro Bermúdez in Arizona, Father Elias Lades in Holland, and Tracey Harkin in Ireland. Alejandro, let's go to you first. As the Church in the United States emerges from this pandemic, how do you see Hispanic Catholics leading the way to a more vibrant practice of our faith here in the U.S.?
I had the opportunity coming back from one of my trips to go not to my usual parish, but to a Hispanic parish in nearby the Denver International Airport, the famous crazy airport in Denver. And it was absolutely encouraging. I'm talking about just 3 weeks ago in the middle of Lent, and see how these parishioners were organized in a manner they will keep, number one, social distancing inside the church, but also in a way in which they opened the church so there was a much wider number of Catholics that could be celebrating or participating at the Mass through loudspeakers at the parking lot. So basically, that is the creativity, and it's very emblematic of how, listen, low-tech, imaginative community solutions are going to help us to keep our faith alive and to make sure that we have access to the graces of the sacrament. So this deeply devotional faith in Catholicism, I think, has a lot to provide to the Catholic Church after COVID, because I am convinced that COVID will mark some kind of a before and after. I do have expectations that my community, that the Hispanic community, will be able to enrich many ways through which we will receive the graces from the Catholic Church, especially sacraments.
I believe that too, Alejandro Bermúdez, and certainly this is a turning point for the church, and we are very optimistic that it will be a good one. We know Alejandro quite well on EWTN, and Tracey's been with us quite a few times, but Father Elias, this is your first visit. I want to get to know you a little bit better. What's this about you wanting to be a hermit, and where has your calling to the priesthood actually led you?
Well, I mean, it was just the thing I thought I have to become an hermit. But as soon as you start speaking with priests about where you have to go and ask for advice and counseling, of course, you discover other things. I joined your Brothers of St. John because I wanted to understand the writings of St. John. I recognized really the authority of St. Thomas of Aquino. I found it really fascinating. I read some of it after my conversion. And so I joined because of that. And well, I did become a priest because they made me think about it and thought it would be a good idea. And yeah, well, it brought me a bit, well, I think I would say that the most challenging apostolate I did as a priest was 7 years in a huge prison in Eastern Europe, in Lithuania, in Vilnius.
You were imprisoned there, or you were ministering there?
I was administering. Well, I mean, I was not imprisoned, but I could say I was a bit addicted to going there because it made me really, well, it forced me to be sharp as a priest. The first time I was in a prison, I visited many prisons, but there to see a few hundred tough guys from behind the barbed wire stare at you in silence, I understood very well what they were thinking. They said, little intellectual father, how will you be and how will you talk about the love of Jesus if you would be on the other side of the bars? And I found that a very honest challenge.
Yeah, they call you right out there. So you started EWTN in the Low Countries in the Netherlands.
Yes.
There. Share a little bit about that experience, very briefly.
Well, it was just suggested by people. And I had been working at Radio Maria for 5 years. I was sort of ending my time there. And for me, it was just going one step further.
So we're going to come back to you in just a minute to discuss the sacraments of initiation. But first, I want to go to Tracey. Tracey, what does the enforcement of government-regulated mandatory education mean for Irish Catholic families?
Well, Brian, here in Ireland, North and South, we're used to a nationalised curriculum in normal subject areas like maths, English, the languages, science, for example. So the government will give guidelines as to what standards kids should reach by certain age levels. But what we're not used to is what's been happening recently, both North and South, is our government calls and particular interest groups calling for very radical enforced relationships and sexuality programs to be enforced in all schools in such a way that parents will not have the right to withdraw them. So this is quite a startling development. There's been meetings going on for almost a year now, advisory groups to government, and it just will not work without trampling on parental rights and religious freedom. So, I mean, I've been speaking up in local media about this. There's been other groups speaking up, and we just need to really stay alert about this, because in our Catholic faith, what a beautiful heritage we have in terms of the truth and meaning of human sexuality. We have so much beauty to pass on to our young people who are living in a very confused culture. And much of the content of these programs is actually horrendous.
Yes.
One example, for example, is the gender ideology, and there's so much more, and we can do so much better than this. We really need to fight this and to speak out about this, and also to provide really good alternatives to young people in that sensitive area.
We're going to get back with you because you're a regular contributor. I want to tap Father Elias one more time before we go today. Let's zero in on sacraments of initiation, the baptism, reconciliation, Eucharist, confirmation. We experience a number of rites of initiation, Father, throughout life, many new beginnings, but you question, where do they lead?
Well, that's the problem. That's a discernment that we must make, because there are good initiations, there's false initiation. And a false initiation introduces you to emptiness, like sex, drugs. But I would say Gnostic initiations are in fact the oldest wrong initiations because they lead you to a fake completeness. A real initiation always leads you from vulnerability to something like incompleteness in yourself, which actually opens you for something else. We were just talking about beauty a few seconds ago. I think crucial in initiation is actually an ugly moment where you have to step from vulnerability to discovering an incompleteness in yourself for other persons, but of course, for something transcendent.
We are going to explore all the sacraments in greater detail in future episodes of the Catholic Sphere here on EWTN. For now, I want to thank Father Elias Lades in Holland, Alejandro Bermúdez in Arizona, Tracey Harkin in Ireland. It's so good to have all three of you with us. We really appreciate the global perspective that we get from the different parts of the world. We are a universal church, and of course, EWTN has a global reach, and that's what the Catholic Sphere is all about. I'm Brian Patrick. We invite you to join us next week as we explore the church in Ukraine and in Spain. And we get to celebrate Mother Angelica's 98th birthday. That's next week on the Catholic Sphere. We'll see you then.